Hello, Kaleo churches. Welcome back to the final video in the Kaleo video series, starting with why. In our first week, we talked about the importance of starting with why, how it anchors us to our purpose and our mission in life. It focuses our vision and our aim so that we're able to make the most of the time that we have. In the second week, we went through the 4 steps to beginning to draft your why statement. The first is to gather the stories, those peak moments and those valley moments, those moments that have stuck out to you, whether they be good or bad, and how they have impacted you to be the person you are today. The second step is to share those stories with other people. The third step is to, as you share those stories, think about the key themes among those stories. What is it about those stories that are so impactful? How have they shaped you? And what ways have they shaped you? And then finally, the fourth step is to draft your why. Last week, we talked about how you can refine your why statement with 2 different methods. The first method is the 2 a.m. friend method. These are the friends, your closest friends, that you could call on at 2 a.m. and you know that they could call on you at 2 a.m. These are the people who know you the very best. You're asked to ask them, why are we friends? And be uncomfortable with the weird looks and the silence, and allow them to tap into that emotional side of why they connect with you. And listen to what they have to say and how you impact them. That informs your why. The influence and the impact that you're having on others is a critical component of your why statement. The second way to refine your why statement is through the sit and cool method. Remember, this Stephen King he'll write a draft of his book and then he sets it aside in a drawer for a given period of time, and then he brings it back at a later time. Maybe he's already drafted a whole nother novel by the time he pulls out that first draft. But he pulls it out after a set period of time when it's had a chance to sit and cool, and he sets about revising it. Do the same thing with your why statements. Set it aside for a few days, a few weeks, not too much longer than that. Pull it out and find stronger word choices, more precise word choices, words that target what you're most trying to get at, the things that are very most important to you, and refine your why statement in those 2 different type of ways. And now, in this final week, we want to move to the broader why of the Kaleo team. The first step is to have each member of the Kaleo team go through their own process of developing their why statements. Once they've done this, come together as a group, each one with their own why statements, each one who has moved through the process of articulating, understanding, and refining their own why, and think about the why of your Kaleo team in your church. At the beginning of this process, at the beginning of the Innovation Hub at the beginning of this month, you talked about your Kaleo stories. Since the Innovation Hub, you may have thought of more stories. As a group, think about the Kaleo stories, the peaks and the valleys, the good moments and the bad, and tell these stories to other people in your church. As you tell these stories, think about the big themes that are coming out of each story that you're telling. Maybe you're telling it to the congregation. Maybe you're telling it in a small group. Maybe you're telling it to the elder board. Wherever you're telling these stories, think about the big themes that are coming out of these peak and valley stories. Then, as a team, with these stories, draft your why statement. Why we blank so that blank. What is the why statement for your Kaleo team? And then finally, set about revising and refining it. The first way you do this is to identify some key stakeholders. This may be your senior leadership team. This may be the board of elders. This may be young adults that are in your Kaleo group, whoever these stakeholders are, share with them your why statement and have them ask them, why should we continue the ministry towards young adults? In getting this feedback, you will be able to more and more get a finer tune understanding of what it is, the why is of your Kaleo team. And finally, set aside a period of a few days or a few weeks, not longer than a few weeks, and just set aside your why. Continue to do your young adult activities, continue ministry as you normally do. Set it aside, and then at another time, get together as a Kaleo team again, maybe over a fun meal or some fun activity, and come together to refine your why statement into its final form. Allow that why statement from then on to inform the strategy for your Kaleo team moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us as we talk about understanding, articulating, and expressing our why and grounding our ministry on our why. Next month we will start unpacking some of the key learnings from the Kaleo project so far that we have learned over the first year and a half of the project. Thank you so much, and God bless. Bye-bye.